What's going on, guys? And for today's video, I'm going to talk about alcoholism. As the title suggests, I am an alcoholic. I've been an alcoholic for 5 years now, and this is my story. The first time I ever drank alcohol, I was probably about 14 or 15. I got it from my dad's liquor cabinet. He was not a heavy drinker. He liked beer a lot, but he kept a liquor cabinet over about maybe 10, 15 years of shit that was untouched. So I did the typical thing of sneaking in at night, getting it out, and I would put it into shot glasses, and immediately it made everything like anxiety, social pressures, all the shit that keeps you up at night. You would go away and just fall asleep to it. I would take some of the liquor, I would drink it, and then I would fill it up with a little bit of water so that if anybody ever looked in there, they couldn't really see that anything was ever drank. I especially did this during the summertime when I was home alone all day, and I would just get drunk and just shit post and go in chat rooms, and I would just be, oh man, I'd be hammered. It was a great feeling. When I was about that age, though, I didn't drink heavy. It was only on certain occasions that I would drink because obviously I didn't have access to it at the time. But it was definitely a marker of what was going to come later in life, because out of like smoking weed or cigarettes or any of the other stuff I've tried, I would say alcohol was the most consistent substance in terms of like how it made me feel. And when I hear stories about people drinking, usually there's people who are turned off by it, or there's people who get into it and they ended up, I would say, hating it. Fortunately, even though I've cut back and pretty much went sober in the last year, I still love it, unfortunately, and it's one of those things that I don't think I'll ever hate, but like I have to kind of keep under wraps, because I mean, it's like the way people describe heroin or other hard drugs was like how I would describe drinking, in that you would drink and all your problems would just go away, man. It's like a warm blanket over you, and you would just relax, and your thoughts, I wouldn't drink heavy, but like when I would get buzzed, my thoughts would be clearer. I also felt more focused, and I felt more relaxed in social situations to where I was kind of able to just float around everything. So that was my experience at 14, 15 and what I discovered from drinking. Later in life, obviously, I'll drink more. When I was 16 and 17, we had a friend of mine whose mother was an alcoholic as well, and I would go over there every day with my truck, and I would take like a beer or some liquor, and he was cool with it, and I would take it home and drink it, and I would do exams, everything from papers on it, and I would kill right through it. And it was a thing that my friends didn't really understand. We would have parties, and we would get alcohol by going to the local store, and I would basically just get a homeless guy, pay him about $20, get me a case of beer, because the case of beer at the time was probably about maybe $15 to $17. And I would tell them, hey, if you buy us this case of beer, keep all the rest of the money as a tip. So we would just get cases on cases of beer. And I had a friend of mine who, we were the type of people that when everybody was passed out, we were still drinking at night. And I was the type that we would just get hammered. I mean, throwing up. I would just throw up all over the place outside. I even got so hammered one time, we had tents at our graduation party, and my buddy's dad drug my head out of the tent just so I could throw up in the grass. And we would do this shit get up in 2 hours and go right to work. And it was just something that, like, man, it's crazy to think about, but I don't know why some people can't handle and some people can. It's definitely a genetic thing to me at that point. I had a friend of mine, like I was saying, who would drink at the same pace, but he was an angry drunk, but I was a happy drunk. So when I would drink, I would, my mood would be up and he would be pissed off, and it was a difficult thing to deal with hanging out with people like that. In hindsight, now that I see it, and we were not a good mix because we were constantly influencing each other to do horrible shit. And I'm gonna say, honest to God, one of the things that I can say about drinking and my past experience with it is that I never got a DUI or arrested. So that's kind of a flex that I took a smarter approach to things. But there was definitely times where when I was driving or going to work, back in the day, or I had a friend, I had to drop him off at work. If I got pulled over, I was fucked. We lived out in the country, so there was not a lot of cops. So I think that was really the upper hand on all of it. Forward to when I was 21, my drinking habits from 14 to 20 was just sneaking liquor, going to parties, and binge drinking. And when I was 21, I had something extremely significant happen to me. I made a lot of money on the stock market. I was investing at a young age, working a lot of jobs here and there until I got my official job that I have now. I started working there at 18. So I had, just to get into my personal business, when I was around 20, I had $5,000. And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I went and borrowed money from the bank and got another $5,000. And then I got something called a 2-for-1 leveraged loan. Got another $10,000 from, the app Robinhood. And all the airline stocks had crashed at the time. So I had about $20,000. $15K was loaned. Hold on. And having $20,000, Delta Airlines dropped down to about 20 a share. So I bought close to about 1,000 shares of Delta Airlines. And when that happened, I put all my money into that, knowing that it would double because airline stocks can't be down forever. And when it skyrocketed, I was making about 1,000 a day for a month. It was insane. I hit gold. So at my job, we can go home early and we could call off. I had vacation. We could go home early if we wanted to. I was going home early every day. I was going to the liquor store when I was 21 every day, and I was picking up a fifth of liquor. I was playing video games and just getting hammered all day because when you're 21 at the time, you think, oh, I'm just celebrating. I've made all this money. I don't got to worry about shit. I'm making like $1,000 a day this month. I can get drunk. So I was going home and getting drunk every day. And once it all ended and I cashed out, I made all my money, which was a lot, which I'm not going to disclose. Basically, at the time when it ended, I didn't end the drinking. And I was, at my worst, I was drinking a fifth a day, smoking about 3 packs of cigarettes a day. And it really started to take a toll on me because I think about around the 6th to 8th month mark, I was like, okay, I'm going to quit drinking. And then I started having withdrawals. And when the withdrawals would happen, I would just get cold in the body. I would sweat. I would shake. I would get extremely, extremely bad, brain fog, thinking I'm going to have a seizure. So in a weird cycle, I had to drink to get rid of the withdrawals. And when I did this, it just made shit worse. I mean, it could be as simple as I go to bed, I wake up in the middle of the night, I can't go to sleep, oh, I gotta go to work tomorrow, and then I have to drink just to go back to sleep, to go to work the next day. You're at fucking work, and you're withdrawing at work, and then you're waiting to get home just so you can drink more to stop it. And this is like the vicious cycle of alcohol. You don't really choose it. To me, it was something that happened on accident. I always thought that alcoholics were like homeless, or they were like people who lost their jobs. But at the time, I was doing really good. I had a good career. Well, still have a good career. I have a really good job. I have a lot of money in my account. I was getting dates. So I was like, I'm not an alcoholic, until I had to quit. And then it was nothing prepared me for it. When you get like the DARE in school and they teach you about drugs, nobody really prepares you or tells you that, like, you know, this shit is something that can happen as soon as a year. You could get hooked on alcohol and you're stuck in this vicious cycle to where you have to drink to curb the withdrawal. You can't take off work to go through the withdrawal. You can't go to the doctor in time to get off the withdrawal unless you go to rehab, which I'm going to get to later in the video, because that was something I spent a smidgen of time in. But it really started to take an effect on me, not just mentally and withdrawal wise, but like actually physically, like with my body and liver. I started to actually see the effects of alcohol, and it's something now that it's kind of a box where if you open it up, it's really hard to close it. Because in those days where I was making a lot of money and I was drinking a fifth, I mean, I had no anxiety. I was feeling really good on it. I'm not going to lie to you. There's going to be people who tell you, like, when they're drinking, man, they feel like shit. They hate it. They're depressed. I was none of those things. There's a guy I watched on YouTube. His name was Brandon Novak, who was a drug addict. He was an alcoholic and a heroin addict. And he put it really good in saying that, I'm not going to lie to you, when I was getting fucked up on those days and I was getting drunk, I was having the time of my life. I was going out and meeting people, and I was spending money. I had nothing at the time to really save for. I felt on top of the world, man. And, you know, alcohol didn't do that. I did that. But the alcohol really made it to where I wanted to do these things, and it made me to where I didn't feel anxious in the places I was at. And where alcohol did good for me in some aspects, it doesn't repay all of the negative things that it did to me. To when I'm 23, I met my ex, and at the time I was still drinking a fifth a day, and I was smoking about 3 packs of cigarettes a day at the time. And she saw a lot of problems in what I was doing. And I remember we were together. She had an ultimatum where she was like, you got to quit. You know, you can't keep doing this. And I agreed with her, and I wanted to quit like really bad at the time. And I remember, this is how dumb it will make you be. One of the things that I loved to do as an alcoholic was I would get like a Diet Pepsi, and I would drink it halfway, then pour the other half up with vodka. Now, I'm going to tell you about vodka. The reason why alcoholics pick vodka over every other drink is because when you start drinking, one of the things you'll notice is that you have a ton of weight gain. And vodka is low in calories. So when you're drinking vodka, it's also cheap. You realize you could be spending about $20, $30 a day on some Captain Morgan, but if you buy a pint of vodka, you could get some Taka in a plastic bottle for about $4.50. It's cheaper than, getting an energy drink or getting like some Fiji water. So I would do that, drink it in the morning, and just be buzzed all the way until I had to go to work, like maybe 5-6 hours later. And, that drink alone, Taka Vodka, really had me on a hold for 5 years. That's what I really drank a fifth of, because I was at the time trying to both stay fit and skinny, but also not gain weight. And I'm going to let you know this, if you're an alcoholic, you will gain weight. It doesn't matter what you try to do to curb it, you will gain weight. Even on Taka Vodka, you will gain weight. I went from around the time when I was 18, I was probably in my best shape. I was like 145. I had like abs, and I was playing sports, and I was muscular on my senior year of high school. I went from about 145, and then give it about all the way up to I was 25. From about that time, I probably gained about maybe 50 pounds. I was close to 200 not until 6 months ago. And I worked out. I stayed fit at work. I didn't even eat a lot. I would not eat just so I could drink and maintain my weight, and it doesn't work. Nothing you do will work to make you stay in shape. It will completely ruin your body. One of the things that happened was I went to the doctor, and they had took all of my vitals, and they had told me that my liver enzymes were in the hundreds, which isn't the worst. They've seen people in the thousands. But I had anemia, and I also had jaundice. My skin had started to turn yellow under my armpits because I was getting jaundice from drinking so much. And, the doctor had came to me and told me, he's like, man, if you drank like this, give it or take like 10, 15 years, you're going to have hepatitis, and you're not going to be able to reverse it. Your liver's going to be just shot. And that was something that really concerned my girlfriend at the time. She would take my alcohol and pour it down the sink. I would go buy alcohol and hide it throughout the house. So when she wasn't looking, I would go down there and just drink. And it wasn't even like a problem for her that like I was an angry drunk, because I wasn't an angry drunk. I was happy drunk. But she was really worried about my health at the time because I was just buzzed a lot. I was gaining weight. I was not looking good no more. And, good for her. I'm not going to hate her for that. I will say, though, one thing that I think couples who are with an alcoholic get wrong is that you can't quit alcohol for another person, because what she did not work for me. You have to really quit for yourself. For nobody else, you have to just completely quit for yourself, because if you quit for somebody else, you're just going to go back into that place. If you guys have a bad time, you're going to want to drink again. If you guys are having a good time, you're going to want to drink again. She or whoever you're with doesn't realize that when you're out in a public place, all it takes is you get to where you're going and you're not drinking a lot. Maybe you're drinking like a 6-pack a day again, or you're drinking like 2 to 3 beers a day again. All it takes is just one time, man, where you go out to a bar with some friends and you drink about 10 beers, and then you're just like that. You're back on to the same shit and you're hiding it. And when you're an alcoholic, she said that, when she would grab my alcohol, she would say it's like a mouse going to its cheese. I would get so anxious at her finding it, and I would get so clever at her not finding it, like hiding it everywhere, that if I always felt that if I didn't have alcohol in a 4 to 5 hour span, I was like going to flip my lid and just have a panic attack. So you think about that before you really start drinking heavy. And I'll also say to people who do drink alcohol, you're not an alcoholic if you binge drink at a party. People will say, oh, he's an alcoholic because he drinks a case of beer at a party. That's not alcoholism, because I never drank alcohol to the point where I was blackout drunk. I was a pacer. So what I would do is I would drink 2 beers in the morning, 2 beers in the afternoon, 2 beers in the evening on the weekend if I wasn't working, and then it would be like 6-pack at night. I mean, I was not getting blackout drunk. I was basically drinking throughout the day, getting buzzed. I wouldn't get drunk at work because that was really dumb. I would not want to lose my job. So I would have to basically drink before work, like a few hours. And then whenever I got to work, I had to suffer through withdrawals every single day, every year, until I got home and then I could finally drink. And it was as soon as when I got out of work, I would go to the nearest gas station and I would grab a beer and I would drink on the way home. I was even drinking in my car while I was driving, which isn't a good thing. But I was not drunk, you know. I was just curving the shit. Sometimes I would pull over and just chug it, throw it in the trunk, and then I was back at home. I would feel super relaxed. It's as simple as that, but it's a ball and chain in your life, because when you start drinking heavy, you make your entire day's routine around alcohol. Like, you learn when the stores close, you learn when they stop selling beers, and you realize that every time that you are out, you've got to think about, how can I get alcohol so that I don't go through withdrawals and I don't shake and I don't feel like I'm gonna pass out and I don't feel like I'm gonna have a panic attack. And I'll say to people who do drink also, not everyone who drinks heavy will be an alcoholic. There's plenty of people who can binge drink in a night. They can binge drink through the whole weekend. They can go throughout their week and never feel any kind of pressure to drink more. And I don't even advocate against alcohol. One thing I see from alcoholics is that they always advocate against drinking. They like, drinking needs to be illegal. Alcohol needs to be illegal. I don't believe that, because my personal problems shouldn't affect others. I just can't handle drinking, to be straight up. I can't drink 1 beer and just be fine. I have to drink 4 or 5, or I have to drink 6 throughout the day. And all of this tension that I had with me and my ex when I would drink ended up me going to rehab. And I did 1 day in rehab, so I can't even say I really went to rehab. I did 1 night, and I'll tell you about that. So my first and only stint in rehab, I say that in air quotes because I spent 1 night in rehab. I was about 24. I was drinking 1 beer a day, and the way that I got there was I had went to a doctor's office. And I was withdrawing so bad. I was like sweating through the seats. I was seeing like red, like not like actual red, but like corner of your eye, a little bit of tint of red. And they were worried I was going through delirium tremens, or that I was going to go through delirium tremens or have a seizure. So I went to the doctor's office to get naltrexone, which is a drug that prevents you from drinking. Because when you drink on naltrexone, it makes you like sicker than hell. And they couldn't give it to me there. So they said, you got to go to rehab. You've got to get it through a psychiatrist or a rehab facility or whatever it is in order to get naltrexone. And the only place that my insurance would cover was a place called Rolling Hills. I had went there, and even before I went into the rehab facility, I had a margarita that I drank, because I was like, if I'm being here fucking long, I've got to get a drink so that I'm not flipping out in the waiting room. And I'm kind of glad I did that, because I was in the waiting room for maybe about 3 to 4 hours till I saw anybody. And let me just tell you, hold on real quick. It was one of the scariest things that I've ever been in, because it was not a rehab facility. It was a sanatorium, which is like a psych ward. And when I went to the psych ward, the first thing I noticed is that they had these door handles, and they didn't actually have handles, they were like sliding. And I know that they put them there so that you didn't hang yourself while you were in their facility. And when I'm in there, there's this chick who was just hanging upside down in the waiting room. And there was another kid who walked in, and he had apparently beat the shit out of his mother and father. And they were putting him there for anger issues. And I'm hearing screaming down the halls, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I in? I go in there and I tell him, I'm here because I'm withdrawing from alcohol. I need to get this drug. And the margarita that I had that day was the only alcohol I had that day, because I just wanted to make sure that before they give me whatever drug in the office, I needed to not flip out before I get that. So when I'm there, I basically just spend a night. I get something to get me through the night, and then I leave in the next morning. They actually told me that if I came there again, because I begged them just one night, I want to stay here one night so I could just get through this withdrawal, because I was on like day 3 of drinking 1 beer a day. And they say that your withdrawals are at its worst on day 3. So I thought maybe if I get through this day, I'll be able to fix myself, which I was wrong about. But I had went there and they had basically told me like, hey, we'll let you go for the day, but if you come back here, we're going to keep you for like a month. Because they thought that like my drinking must have been serious, the way that my vitals were and my withdrawals were going. So after that, I really did slow down on drinking up until maybe the beginning of 2025. So I went about 6 months where I slowed down. And then in 2025, I was with my girl, and we started to have problems, and I started drinking heavy again. Now, I will say that every time I have attempted to quit alcohol, and I've got back on it, I've never been worse than I was before. So I never went back to drinking a fifth a day. But I did go back to drinking a pint a day, which was about 12 drinks, and then sometimes I would have a beer or two on top of that. That was still killing me, because if you read on alcohol, there's conditions where if you go through withdrawal a lot, your brain will get worse and worse at handling it. So even though I was drinking a pint a day, it still felt like the withdrawals were the same as when I was drinking a fifth a day. And it was the same shit I was drinking, which was Taka vodka, Diet Pepsi in a mix. And it really took like 5 years off of my life, because looking back, I could have done a lot more had I not been such a heavy drinker. I could have been way more in shape. I could have been way more active. I could have gotten a lot more done had I not spent most of my day drinking and then dealing with the fatigue of that and then dealing with the low sleep of that. A lot of my problems that I had with my ex was, not a lot, but one of the problems I had with my ex was that I had a hard time sleeping at night. And in hindsight, since I've recently quit for the most part, a lot of my sleep problems came because I was drinking heavy, waking up in the middle of the night, having to drink again. And, it just, hold on. And I'll say that even if alcohol doesn't seem like it takes a lot from you, it does mentally and physically. When I say it takes a lot from you, like I, again, never lost my job. I had a good career. I didn't lose my girlfriend over alcohol, and I didn't lose any significant amount of money. I mean, I was steady making money and just cruising throughout the day, buzzed, but still it had taken a lot on me, like mentally and physically. And now that I've mostly quit for the most part, like I cannot have alcohol in the house. I have to only drink in social settings, or I can only drink like on maybe an occasion. It still messes with me mentally, because when I drink, even now, like now that I've mostly quit, I think all the time about drinking again. Sobriety is such a weird thing. When I was quitting, I quit for I had like a good 2 to 3 months of just straight sobriety. And during those 2 to 3 months, there's almost kind of a high that you get from sobriety. Like life feels weird. You really get clear-headed and you don't know how to handle it. And it's almost scary in a sense because it's like you're kind of sober, so you're just high all the time. But then whenever you drink a beer, you're like, man, I really want to go back to this. And then whenever you quit, you're like, man, I want to go back to that night I was drinking. And then you're like, man, I drink in social settings, so maybe I should just start going out more so I can drink more. And then you realize like it's just alcohol the whole time, man. It's a ball and chain in your life. Being an alcoholic, you will never ever not be an alcoholic. Once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. And that's not to be negative or self-defeating. That's just to say that you've always got this part in you that when you drink or when you start drinking, you can always go back to the old shit you were doing, man. It's not good. Some of the positives I've seen from being sober was I lost a significant amount of weight. To give you a picture, I gained, like I said, 50 pounds from the time I was 18 to 25. I went from 145 all the way to 195. And I think I was almost 200 pounds at one point. When I quit drinking, it didn't take but about 4 months. I went all the way from 195 to like I'm 150 now. So it really shows that everything you were doing, it completely kills your body, man. My liver levels are normal. I still have some yellow under my armpits from the jaundice, but I do feel more energy, so maybe the anemia is not there anymore. But I mean, to go from a breakup, the way that I got sober was I had a breakup, and during that time I was like, man, I really want to kick this habit. And I started living back here with my mother. So I decided like the first thing I gotta do is I gotta get off this shit. And it was easy to do for me because I had a lot of free time since I wasn't taking care of her. And I was only going to work every day, so I would go home some days whenever I was just feeling like shit through withdrawal. And I would just go to the gym and just run. I would just work out. Getting your heart rate up, it really makes the withdrawals kind of sink out because during the withdrawals, your heart rate goes up all the time. So that helped me out a lot in retrospective. And lastly, if I could end this video on any note, I would just like to inform you that this could happen to anyone. Don't think it can happen to you. And don't think that you can just drink and not end up having withdrawals. Some people don't, some do. They are horrible. They will put you in a cycle of drinking for years. They will make you gain weight. They will make you hurt your health. And you don't have to be a loser to become an alcoholic. You can be a winner and become an alcoholic. You can be ordinary and become an alcoholic. Anyone can. And that's just my final message. I hope that it doesn't happen to you. And if it's happening to you right now, I'll tell you that things do get better. You just have to put in effort every single day. And you have to know that every single day you can go back to this. But every single day you can stay away from this. And that's the video. See you guys.